join. Okay, so welcome to today's live and workshop. We're going to start now. Thank you very much for all of you for joining. And as I was saying, today is going to be a different workshop because I want to explain you not only what anxiety is generating in your life, but as well that, believe it or not, anxiety is just one barrier that is preventing you from being happy, which is the end objective or the final goal. Okay. I mean, right now you're struggling a lot. And right now, for you, the most important is to overcome anxiety because it's the source of all your problems. But trust me, this is not the end. The end goal, the final outcome, is to be happy and to have a perfect life, which is what I want you to achieve. Just overcoming your anxiety is not enough. I want more for you. And this is what we're going to do today. Okay. So I have prepared a very interactive workshop and I would love you to write in the chat specifically, how do you feel right now? So there you were talking about overthinking, but the rest, how do you feel? How is, how are you feeling? Okay. So write in the chat, how are you feeling? Very important. How do you feel right now? So Dee was talking about overthinking, but feeling good right now. Okay, that's brilliant. What else? What about the others? What about Emma? What about Susie? What about iPhone 13? I don't know your name, sorry. I really need to know how you're feeling. You're all feeling good, relaxed, but overthinking at night when trying to sleep. Okay. And how would you like to feel? How would you like to feel? What is your final outcome? I'm asking you all these questions with a very strong purpose behind, trust me. Later on, I will show you why. How would you like to feel? A happy life. Yeah, happy. This is the final outcome. And why are you here today? How do you think I can help you? Okay. To overcome overthinking, to overcome your fears. Okay. Okay. That's good. That's good. Tell me more. I'm gonna write it down. Okay. Bad dreams. Yeah. It goes all together, you know? The bad dreams, it goes all together with the overthinking, with the negative thoughts, with the catastrophizing. We're gonna see it later on why, okay? What do you think is preventing you from being happy? Because this is what you want, the final outcome, to feel good, to feel happy. Or is preventing you right now to get the life that you want? What are the main barriers, the main obstacles? Work pressure, okay. Work pressure. worrying about future I can control. Yeah, this takes a lot of energy, right? And this takes a lot of um, I mean, not only energy, but prevents us from enjoying the present and from being fully in what we're doing because we are constantly living in the future, and this is preventing our anxiety. I mean, this is preventing our happiness to happen, right? Okay, and you know what I when I was struggling with anxiety, what I wanted, it was pretty much the same as you, you know. I wanted to stop my mind from these catastrophizing thoughts, this overthinking. I was, I wanted to be happy. And I wanted to control my irrational fears, you know, these things that why am I always getting the worst? Why am I always catastrophizing? I wanted a calm life, a tranquil life, a happy life, a life full of love and what for me will be a perfect life, you know. And we, if you realize, we all want pretty much the same, expressed in different words, like stop overthinking, stop worrying about the future, decrease my work pressure, control my mind so it doesn't, you know, fly free and starts overthinking. We all want a dream life, a perfect life, a calm life, a life with peace of mind. And for that, to get it, it's very important. How do you imagine your perfect life? Tell me. How do you imagine it? Living in the moment, right here, right now. You know, the Buddhism defines happiness as letting go the past, stop living in the future, and being in the moment, living in the moment. This is for me the key. This is for me the key to be in nature as well. That's a dream. My case right next to the sea. Yeah. You know, we all have a dream life. And right now, the overthinking, the unconscious fears, the I mean, work pressure, overthinking, catastrophizing, it's stealing our happiness from our life, you know? And this is why it's so important to learn to manage it. And this is what at that point, this is where I was 10 years ago. I had high functioning anxiety. What I thought they were my triggers, who were several miscarriages that I had and several fertility treatments that I had to follow. The losses, they really broke me down. And from that moment on, I started feeling anxious, you know. But at that time, I was not realizing that I really had a good life. I had a great job, I had a lovely husband, a great family, and I had friends. But I really was missing something to be perfect, you know? I still was not happy. I thought the thing I was missing were my children, you know? And when they were not coming, and then what I was getting was the miscarriage. And not only I was not happy, but I started to feel and develop very high functioning anxiety. And I realized that I was focusing all my happiness in something external. You know, I thought where I will have the baby, I would be happy and complete. That meant I was feeling void and incomplete. You know, and at that time, I was not aware of how much I needed to fill my existential void, you know, this huge hole I had deep inside of me. I was not feeling important. I never thought I deserved the good things that I had. And I was feeling like a failure because I couldn't have a baby, which was what I really wanted at the time. But looking backwards, now I know that I was extremely unhappy. And I would have been extremely unhappy as well with the baby. And the worst would have been that I would have made my baby extremely unhappy as well. Because I was feeling this immense inner void that derived into my anxiety and stress, and that derived into self criticism, self judgment. I was thinking there was something wrong with me. I was feeling like a failure because I was not able to conceive. I was self criticizing and self judging all the time. My mind was out of control. My thoughts were out of control because I was all the time overthinking with really bad dreams, all the time, what if, what if, what if, all the time with very irrational fears going on. And I was even thinking that I was losing my mind, until I hit the bottom and I got my first panic attack. And then everything got even worse. I started feeling a lot of physical symptoms that I never had before. And I was struggling with digestive issues, really bad digestive issues. I had blurred vision. My heart was racing. I lost a lot of weight. But the worst was my emotional and my mental symptoms. As I said before, I was catastrophizing. I had really bad recurrent thoughts. I have emotional hijacks, and I was living in a constant worry and this what if, what if, what if. And I'm telling you all this because I know where you've been. I know where you are. And I know that at that time I thought what it really triggered my anxiety were the miscarriage, but it was not. There was something behind. There was a huge there was a huge void that I was trying to fulfill with a great job, with a great husband, with friends, with physical things. But that was the source of my anxiety. Anxiety in the end was just a ring, an alarm that my body pulled up to just make me stop and think and rethink about all the way I was handling the situation and how I was feeling. So I tried three different psychologists after collapsing. I went on medication and I felt like a zombie. Then I was not getting help and I was not improving. So because medication was making me feel numb. It was not really going to the root of the problem. Then I did Reiki, I did hypnosis, acupuncture, meditation, yoga, but nothing worked. I wasted more than 4,500, in several years trying to feel better. And this didn't help at all until one day I engaged with anxiety and emotional coaching. And thanks to it, I understood that I was a highly sensitive person. I didn't know that. And this high sensitivity, the capacity that my body had to feel emotions in a higher intensity than the average of the people, was the one making me feel what I was feeling, these overwhelming emotions that I was feeling. Then I identify my anxiety triggers, the real ones, this void that I was feeling, that I was trying to fulfill with my looking for a child, looking for this perfect life that I thought I wanted, and being a people pleaser and making others make me feel like a failure, self criticizing, self judging. I understood what were the real triggers of my anxiety. And I learned to manage my anxious fears. And this is the key. And this is what I want you to understand today, that you're not going to get the life that you want unless you discover what we're going to talk about it today. Okay. So I stopped, when I understood that, I stopped seeking for perfectionism. I was extremely perfectionist at work, in my personal life, in my family life. Everything has to be done my way or no way. I learned as well to let go control because those were triggers of my anxiety. Later on, we will talk about them. And after understanding and discovering all that, I not only got to control my anxiety, but I also had the courage and I learned to take very strong decisions in my life, which was to remove some toxic people from my family out of my life. That means breaking with them, totally breaking with them, you know. So after that, my life changed completely. There was a new me. I was happy. I was free from anxiety. I felt empowered. And I was very proud of my sensitivity. Because before, I thought that was a weakness. Before, I thought that because I was feeling and feeling a lot, I was weak because those feelings were controlling me. But it's not that they were controlling me, it's that I was missing the tools to handle them, you know? And this is what I want to share with you today. I want you to identify how are you? What do you want in your life? What is your end goal? And what are the barriers that you need to break in order to get it? I know the first word that comes into your mind is anxiety or overthinking or ruminating fears. But there's much more that we need to make conscious. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to fix it. Okay? So after I discovered my real triggers, I embraced the way I was. I realized about how sensitive I am and what are the tools that I needed to protect me first, and second, to handle all the emotional intensity I was getting. And after I learned that, for the first time in my entire life, not before anxiety, in my entire life, I was able to go with the flow. I was able to trust. I was able to enjoy. I was able to focus and live in the moment, you know? So I stopped overthinking and I really allow myself to enjoy life extremely full. So, you know, this is what I want you to get. This is what I need you to get because life is beautiful. Yeah, with pros and cons, but there are so many things we have to enjoy life every day. Just the fact of being here today, being alive today is a gift, you know, that only anxiety is not gonna, doesn't deserve to take away this from you. And this is what I want to share with you today. So are you ready? So the first thing that really helped me to understand that I was not losing my mind when I was in the process of anxiety was understanding what was happening in my body because I was feeling anxiety. Let me share with you, hold on a sec. Let me share with you several images that are going to help you understand it even better. Can you see? Can you tell me, please, if you can see the presentation? So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Can you tell me, please, if you can see it? Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. So you see here the painting for the picture from Cleveland Clinic about our nervous system. Okay, so in our brain, we generate, when we're living with anxiety, in our brain, we generate adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline and cortisol are the stress hormones, okay? That from our brain through the spinal cord and all the nervous system go along our entire body. And why do we generate adrenaline and cortisol? Well, you have to understand that anxiety is a fear. It's a fear to the future, to the unknown, to the uncertainty. Fear means that every time my brain perceives a threat, it's going to pull out what is called the surviving mechanisms, okay? This is what we do whenever we see a fire, for instance. Whenever we see a fire, our brain understands this is dangerous and fire can kill us. So it pulls up the surviving mechanism, which means that our brain releases adrenaline and cortisol. Why? Because we will need it to run away or face the problem. That means our muscles are going to have more gasoline to run away, or our heart is going to beat faster, so our muscles get more oxygen, our lungs are going to produce more oxygen thanks to the adrenaline and cortisol that our brain is releasing. And this mechanism is extremely good and positive when we are in front of a physical threat, a fire, a poisonous snake, something that really can threaten our physical integrity, okay? But what happens? And our brain doesn't understand what is real from what is not real. Our subconscious mind doesn't understand it. So just the fact that we think about it, our body and our mind understands that it is real. If we are laying down in bed, we are comfortably lying down. We are not exposed to any physical threat, but our mind is catastrophizing, overthinking, ruminating, or having bad dreams. Our body is going to react in the very exact way as if we will face them in reality. That means my brain is going to release a lot of adrenaline and cortisol to face this threat. What's the problem? That this threat is not real, it's just in our mind. And since it's just in our mind, our body is not going to use this adrenaline and cortisol. What happens with this adrenaline and cortisol, with these stress hormones? Well, that they go from our brain to our entire body, from our nervous system. And what do? Well, what they do is that they tense the muscle system. That means, as you can see in this picture, our muscles are surrounding every single organ. They are protecting our organs from any threat, any damage. Okay, as you can see here, for instance, the muscles are surrounding. They are protecting our chest. They are surrounding and protecting our heart. They are surrounding and protecting our stomach. So what happens when our muscles are constantly receiving a shot of adrenaline and cortisol because of our overthinking or ruminating or recurrent thoughts or irrational fears? That our muscles, which in a regular base will be relaxed and calm, they get totally contracted and they squeeze, literally squeeze the organs they are surrounding. That's why whenever we are living in an anxious mode or constantly overthinking or ruminating, our muscles get contracted and we get stomach aches, our heart starts racing, we get like a heavy weight in our chest, you see, we get heavy weight in our neck, sometimes we cannot swallow, we have really bad headaches because look, or the muscles, they are surrounding they are all our entire body. They are, so imagine when the muscles from our neck get contracted, get tense. They squeeze our throat. Sometimes we get neck aches or sometimes we cannot even swallow. Do you see? Do you understand now? Do you understand now why exactly? We can get hypertension. We can get, there are plenty of physical symptoms that we can get. Blurry vision, needles, get the feeling like thousands of needles are pinching our arms and our legs, stomach, all digestive issues you can imagine, you know, short of breath, excessive sweating. It's because all the adrenaline and cortisol that we are generating with every single irrational thought or every single fear that we generate, it pulls out the survival mechanism and our body gets an overdose of adrenaline and cortisol. Okay, do you see how important it is now to understand this? Because when we know what happens and when we start feeling these physical symptoms, when we know that they are normal and nothing bad is happening to us, we're not gonna die from it. And it's just our muscles getting contracted and squeezing every single thing. Our health anxiety reduces because it's not the same thinking, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack, I'm gonna die. Or, oh my God, my muscles are getting tense, my muscle is squeezing my heart, and this is why it's beating so fast. Or the heavy weight in my chest is uncomfortable, but I know I'm not getting a heart attack. I know it's because of my anxiety, and I'm gonna do something to release it with specialized help. You see a difference? Do you see how important it is to understand what is happening in our body in order to integrate that we're not having a huge problem. It's really uncomfortable. Yes, I know. I'm not gonna deny this to you. We don't want it for our worst enemy, of course. But let's face it and let's be objective and let's reduce the intensity of our worries. All these symptoms, they are extremely uncomfortable, but they are not gonna kill us. Okay? And this is the most important. So now that you know that all the physical symptoms that you're having is because you are producing an excess of adrenaline and cortisol, so your muscles are getting tense, and then this tension or contracted muscles are the ones generating all the physical symptoms that you have in your body. How does it make you feel? Be honest, please. Write it in the chat. How does it make you feel? Because for me, it was extreme release. For me, when I understood that all my stomach problems were not generated because I had a tumor in my stomach, because this is what I thought. When, yeah, now that you know that all the physical symptoms that you are feeling in your body and that you are experiencing in your body are only generated by the excess of adrenaline and cortisol, and that you don't really have anything bad that it might cause you a danger, a real danger, how does it make you feel? Now that you know that everything that you're feeling is normal, it belongs to anxiety, peace of mind. Yeah. And that's the key, Emma. I mean, information is power. And if we know how we work, how we function, and how does our anxiety makes us feel, we have more weapons to control it, you know? And that's my job. Understand how you work in order to reset your anxiety. Okay. So I felt exactly the same way. When I understood that all my stomach problems were generated because of the hyperdose of adrenaline and cortisol in my body, I was like, oh, really? So that means I don't have a cancer in my stomach? That means that I'm not going crazy because I'm feeling like thousands of needles are just pinching my arms and my legs, or because I'm dizzy, or because I have a blurry vision, or because I have a constant headache or constant backache. You know, I spent a lot of money on physiotherapists at that time. So they were helping me to um, compensate the negative consequences of anxiety. But the most efficient way at the time would have been to go to the root. That means what was generating those shots of adrenaline and cortisol into my body, and go there. And this is what I do, you know, this is what I did. And as soon as I did it, my stress and my anxiety stopped. And then my life started to improve. And then I kept on learning about emotional management and managing my inner dialogue, my self criticism, my self judgment, and my overthinking stopped. And then I was able to focus and be fully focused on a day to day and my present life. And this is precious. And this is what I want you to get as well. Okay. And this is what I get with my clients as well. So, as I say, understanding this helped me to decrease my levels of worries, because I knew at that time that I had nothing bad. I didn't have a tumor. Nothing was about to kill me. I just needed to stop my mind to stop producing adrenaline and cortisol. Okay? So that brought me as well peace of mind. But then the second thing that even improved even better my peace of mind was when I understood what was happening to me at a mental level and at an emotional level. I'm gonna share again the screen, and you're gonna see, because for me this just was blowing my mind when I got to know this. For me, this was. Do you see it? Do you see the brain here? Okay. When I understood how the amygdala works, do you see the picture from the brain? Because this is a very important one. Would you mind to tell me in the chat, please? Okay, thank you. Well, here in our brain, we have the amygdala. Yes, you see this small shape almond? Okay, this small piece, a small shape. This is it's made of gray mass, and it is placed in our limbic system. The limbic system is what we call emotional brain. Okay, so this little friend from here is the responsible for scanning all our environment 24/7 and realizing if there is any threat. Okay, this is the one that when you get into a restaurant, without you realizing, it's scanning the whole place looking for a threat. And then it's the one generating the information that our brain stores. That means this restaurant is safe. Nothing bad is gonna happen to me. Okay? So the amygdala gets hyperactivated and hypersensitive every time we get a shot of adrenaline and cortisol. So with the time, our amygdala, when we're living for a long period of time with overthinking, intrusive thoughts, over stress, with irrational fears, our amygdala gets hyperactivated and exactly, it's a scanner. That's it. It's gets hyperactivated and hypersensitive and keeps on developing more threats than in reality they are. That means my amygdala is receiving constantly a shot of adrenaline and cortisol, and it's making it to be on alert 24/7. That means my amygdala thinks we are in a war. Everything is dangerous. Okay? So before anxiety, for me, it was not a threat to get outside the house or, for instance, get into a plane or drive or meet new people. But since my amygdala has been receiving so much adrenaline and cortisol, it has been hyperactivated and is perceiving threats all around. This is why when we start living with anxiety, every time more and more, we are being more and more scared of doing more and more things. Things that before, maybe 2, 3 years ago, we were doing fine. Why? Because at that time, my amygdala understood going out to a new restaurant is not a threat. There's nothing dangerous there. So I was going freely, enjoying, happy. I was allowing myself to have a good time. With anxiety, my amygdala might be learning. What if you go to a restaurant and you get a panic attack and then you cannot get out of it? What if you go to a new restaurant and then there's no way out? What if you go to a restaurant and the food that you get gives you digestive problems and then you cannot eat or you cannot and you're just having a bad time? What if? What's the problem? That we keep on believing those what if from our amygdala. We stop doing things. That means we avoid doing things because they give us anxiety, and my amygdala is getting more and more hyperactivated and hypersensitive, and it's storing more and more information about possible threats that in reality they don't exist. You know, for me, understanding this was just blowing my mind because whenever I understood that the changes in the way I perceive reality were not generating because I was going mental or insane, but because of the chemical reactions my amygdala was suffering due to the shots of adrenaline and cortisol, then that got me a lot of peace of mind because I knew, like, okay, if my amygdala have learned all these threats, which are not real, it can unlearn them or relearn new situations that are not a threat. And that's the basics of anxiety. When we have anxiety, we need to reset the information my amygdala has learned. So I can keep on going to restaurant without feeling anxious, taking a plane, going out, driving, and not perceiving as many situations as a threat as I'm doing. Why? Because just the fact that my amygdala has been hyperstimulated that generates my overthinking because my amygdala is on alert 24/7 and it's constantly thinking, what if, what if, what if, what if? It's constantly catastrophizing, it's constantly ruminating, it's constantly bringing all these recurrent fears and thoughts. You see? Did you understand this part? Because this is very, very important. Yes. So, when the amygdala gets hyperactivated and hyperstimulated, what it makes in our brain is like what it's called a cognitive distortion. That means that we don't perceive reality in the same way. That means that we automatically get negative thoughts or irrational beliefs that can intensify our anxious feelings, That means this is the responsible, this a cognitive distortion is the responsible it behind all this catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, like everything is dangerous. I am an anxious person. I will have to be like this my entire life, like making broad negative assumptions or engaging in what is called a black and white thinking, like, or it's good or it's bad. We're forgetting about, the great sum. These distortions, the good things about this distortion is like they are not permanent. The same way my brain and my amygdala has learned to function this way, we can retrain it and reset it. It is possible to do it when you have the specialized help and the tools that you need. It's very easy to do it. And this is what I do with my clients. Second problem or second consequence, not problem, second consequence that the hyperactivation and hyperstimulation of the amygdala brings. What it's called the hyper awareness of thoughts and sensations. Anxiety makes us to focus on the negative, on the problem, on overscanning our entire body. Like we are constantly checking for signs of anxiety or looking for the problem, only focusing on the bad things, only focusing on the negative sides. This is overwhelming. We are so alert all the time, considering and trying to control everything. Like we are always considering and overthinking scenario A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And that's exhausting because we are trying to control everything. We are hyper aware of all the thoughts and the sensations that are going around in our body. And this is exhausting because this does not allow us to be enjoying because our brain understands we are in a constant threat and there's no time to have fun. There's no time to focus on the birds or on the flowers or on the good things that I have in life. I have to be on alert. And again, this is something my brain has learned. And the same way it has learned, it can relearn a new things because thanks to the neuroplasticity of the brain. Okay. So it's very important you to remember that these thoughts and sensations are a product of anxiety. They don't mean that you have a mental problem. Because there is a very strong social stigma with anxiety. We think that because we have anxiety, we there's something wrong with us. We feel like a failure because we self-judge and blame ourselves because we just think that we have done something wrong to get it, that we deserve to get it, that we have chosen it somehow. We feel like a failure. We blame ourselves because due to our anxiety or the way we feel, our family is not enjoying. We are not doing things. We're not going out. We're not going on vacations. We're not trying new things. We're constantly worried. We're contagion, this worry to others. And this is not true. You see? This is just generated by our anxiety. And this is the obstacle that is preventing you to be happy. But this doesn't mean that you have a mental problem. And this is one of the main things that I want you to understand. I don't have a mental problem because I'm feeling anxious. I'm missing the tools to handle it. Second thing, all the physical sensations that I'm feeling are generated by the adrenaline and cortisol that my brain is generating because it's getting on the surviving mode because my amygdala has been hyperactivated and is perceiving threats all around. And this is generating me to perceive reality in a different way, which is a cognitive distortion. Then it makes me feel hyper aware of every single thing, every single thought, every single sensation, And then that drives me into the physical symptoms. Since I'm feeling them and over worrying myself, what if I have something bad? And then the health anxiety comes. Because anxiety gets a physical manifestation, as we have told before, due to the muscle contraction and the overload and the generation of adrenaline and cortisol, which are the stress hormones. So, is it clear? The first things that I really wanted you to understand, that all what you're feeling is normal, that there's nothing wrong with you, that is your brain and your anxiety, the one that have generated it, and the same way they have generated it, you can, with the right help and tools, relearn or retrain your brain so you function in a different way. So, and then you can be happy. You can break with anxiety and stress to be happy. Do you? Let me, let me, um, let me read you in the chat. Okay. Okay. So, any questions so far? Dana, Emma, iPhone? No? So let's go. Do you know, that was the first thing that for me, it was extremely, extremely important to for you to understand. For me was key. Then the second thing that for me was, you know, like it made a huge impact, especially in my life, was the fact of identifying my real triggers. I mean, the first part, when I understood the physical sensations, why is it generated, that helped me to feel release and release a lot of tension and worries. Okay. But what it really made a huge difference in my life was identifying my real triggers. Um, I don't know if you've been in the WhatsApp group where I shared one exercise. Were you? I asked the group to make list of the recurrent thoughts and the rational fears that you might have, and that, because this is gonna help you to understand the triggers. Well, if you didn't do it, don't worry. I'm gonna show you how to do it, and so then you can do it. But the key here is to list all the recurrent thoughts that you have. Because once you list them all the fears that you have, all the what if, when you list them all, you're going to be able to understand certain patterns. And when you get these patterns, you're gonna be able to see as well, to narrow down those fears into 4, 5 triggers. Okay. What are the triggers? Okay. Triggers can come from many different areas, many different things. Here you have the main ones. Okay. Subconscious fears, something that my brain has learned as a threat that in reality, it doesn't represent a real threat. For instance, going to a new restaurant, or driving, or taking a plane, things that I was doing before with no problem. Now they are a nightmare for me. Just thinking about them just gets me anxiety. This is because your subconscious mind has learned that flying, driving, going to a restaurant, doing something new is a threat, it's a fear, when before it was not. Okay, that would be a trigger. Then, a very important trigger: neglected emotions. Yes. When we have been neglected to express our emotions, they get stuck in our life, in our body. And with the years, they can explode. For instance, I have lost some very important person in my life, and I did not allow myself to feel all the mourning process. That's a neglected emotion. Okay. Or I had a breakup, I had a divorce, and I did not allow myself to feel what I was supposed to feel at that time. That's a neglected emotions. That you think you're fine with time, but maybe 2, 3 years later, boom, it hits over. Okay. And you start feeling anxious and you don't understand why. Yeah, my mom died 3 years ago, but I'm fine, 3 years later, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, but at that time you neglected those emotions and now they just exploded like a volcano. Unhealed traumas, the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Unhealed traumas, whether from our childhood, from our younger years, anything. And when we talk about trauma, we don't only talk about the big ones, like I never been abused, neither physically, emotionally, or mentally, but there are many other traumas you might not be aware of that for your brain has been trauma and they had not been healed. And time later, boom, they hit over as an anxiety trigger. Okay. The negative coping skills, depending on the relationship from your teachers, with colleagues at work, with your friends at school, with your parents. We all learn different coping skills. And there might be some of them that at that time help you, but right now they are one of your anxiety triggers. For instance, pleasing people. That's a very negative coping skill. I started pleasing people when I moved to a different school and I moved from city and I need to get new friends. I need to make new friends. So I started to become a people pleaser and that grant me new friends. And that was okay 20 years ago. But now it just became an anxiety trigger. Okay. That would be a very good example of negative coping skills. Long lasting stressful situations the same. Stress and anxiety, they share the same physical symptoms because they are both fears. Okay. So stress generates a lot of adrenaline and cortisol as well. This is why we get the same physical symptoms. This is why we get the same consequences. And this is why we need to approach it in the same way. Then chronic medical conditions that generates anxiety as well. You can imagine why. Low confidence and self-esteem. That can be as well a very strong anxiety trigger. Since I don't trust myself, I don't trust anyone. I'm self-doubting constantly myself and others. I'm self-guessing myself constantly. That means I live on a constant overthinking. Am I taking the right decision? What if am I wrong? I'm looking always for external validation. Since I'm not confident in my own skin, I need others to validate me, that drives me into emotional dependence. So all this as well can become a trigger. And then, of course, negative inner dialogue. How do you talk to yourself? Self-judgment, self-criticism, sometimes we are our worst enemies. And we talk to ourselves in a way that we will not allow anyone to speak to us in this way, you know? So it's very important that you start listing all these things because from there, you're going to be able to identify your triggers. Because we tend to think that a trigger is, oh, going out gives me anxiety. So my trigger is going out. No, that's a consequence. This is something you have learned. I mean, not you, your amygdala have learned. Going out is dangerous. No, no, this is not a trigger. What's the fear behind going out? Okay. Oh, and my trigger is driving. Driving is not a trigger. Driving gives you anxiety, but because your amygdala has learned that driving is dangerous. But what's the trigger behind? A client was just like, no, driving is my trigger. Okay, let's dig on it. And you know what was her trigger? The fact of what if I'm driving and I get a panic attack and then I have an accident? That was her real trigger, the real fear. Okay. So think about it, list them, write them, and now that you know what one are the main triggers, identify which are the categories and if you can classify them. And that will give you the real triggers of your anxiety. And this is the most important. Identifying the real triggers of your anxiety. because then you can work them out with a specialist, to reset them and make your brain learn how to function in a different way. So analyze your thoughts, your mental processes, your stress levels, all your life events and milestones, then your environmental factors as well, like if you live in a chaotic or unsafe neighborhood, or you have gone through moving or divorce or loss of a loved one, that can contribute to your anxiety trigger. You can also see your personality, because there are certain personalities that are more prone to develop anxiety, like if you're a perfectionist, or if you have excessive needs for control, or you always had a tendency to overthink since you were a kid, that can become anxiety triggers. And of course, past traumas, as we just have mentioned, those are very strong anxiety triggers. And this information is key. This information is key because once you understand all the physical parts, why my mind is behaving the way it's behaving, and what is triggering my anxiety, you know, working on it with the right help and specialist, it makes it like in very few sessions, you overcome it and you reset it. And then you can start focusing on being happy, getting the life you want, getting this perfect life that we all want with peace of mind, free from overthinking, free from our fears, and feeling and living in the moment. And this is precious, really precious. So tell me, how do you feel with all this information? Were you familiar with it, with all this information? Mhm. Okay, trigger identification is extremely, extremely important. Extremely important. And how is it making you feel? Do you think that you're improving with the therapy? Because triggers is something that is the beginning, You need to start working on it right from the beginning because the origin of the anxiety. So as soon as you root them out, anxiety is gone. So now that you know all this, how do you want to feel? Yes. Now that that you know how important is trigger identification, that you know what are the triggers, what triggers mean, because most of the times people tend to think that the trigger is, not driving is my anxiety, that's my trigger, that's not your real trigger. The trigger is behind, So now that you know how important is trigger identification, now that you know what you're going through and why you are feeling the way you're feeling and where you're getting the physical symptoms that you're getting, how do you want to feel? Because overcoming anxiety when you're working with the right person is easy. You can make it in less than 1 month. And this is what I do with my clients. Yes, you should. You should. Yes, you should. So, when I got to know all this, what I really wanted was to get out of it and be happy. This is what I really wanted. This is what I wanted to feel. And I know you want to feel it too. And this is what I want you to get, you know? So, would you allow me to help you and show you how I help women to get happy again and get the perfect life they want again? You know? So, yes, thank you. The way I do it with Tizer, you know? I'm gonna show you. Yes, that's the way I do it. This is how I work with my clients. Tizer is a program, a coaching program that I have developed for women who want to be happy, but anxiety, it's preventing them from getting it. You know, for women who are constantly overthinking, for women who are beating themselves up, becoming their worst enemies, and women who are missing their old self. Women who need to fill the voids they feel inside and who are frustrated because no matter how hard they try, they cannot be happy because there is an obstacle there. So this program is for these anxious women who want to be happy again and enjoy a perfect life. Do you reflect? Do you want to be one of these women? So first, what we do, what they get, is we identify and reset these subconscious fears. These subconscious fears that are the main triggers. Why? Because the first thing we do is to stop making them live on a constant worry, ruminating, catastrophizing, and overthinking. And once they get it, they substantially and automatically improve their quality of life because they can be fully focused on what the life they are getting. And this is very important. You can see the example of this client. She was 24/7 living on a constant worry. She had intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts. She was being drained, up to the point where she thought that she had lost her mind. The same way I was thinking, and this most of you're thinking too. And along the weeks that we were working, she discovered how to manage her overthinking. She stopped rumination, and she got back to enjoy her peace of mind. And now she's enjoying life with no worries. She feels like herself again, and that's priceless for her. That's the first thing. Second thing, we identify and manage your anxiety triggers. Those past traumas, those neglected emotions, those personality traits, those coping skills, all the weird triggers behind your anxiety. Why? Because we need to stop generating more anxiety and more adrenaline and cortisol. Because this is the source of our physical symptoms and of our struggles. You can read it here. You can read how she felt. She was another client. She was getting out of a toxic relationship and she thought the trauma of this breakup and this relationship was the one triggering her anxiety because she was extremely scared of engaging in new romantic relationships. But when we started working together, she understood that her real triggers were not only the traumas generated by the ex relationship, but they were lying underneath, you know. She would, since she has been always terrified of being rejected or left alone, she had a problem with the fact of being on her own. This is why she was engaging in very dependent emotional relationships with narcissists, you know. So she understood and she reset this. She learned to love herself and love to be on her skin on her skin. And then she started to get into very healthy romantic relationships that drove her to happiness, not only because of the relationship by itself, but because she was living in peace with herself without depending on external validation or couples validation, you know? Third thing, manage your inner critic dialogue. Why? To stop beating yourself. So you can set up healthy boundaries, boost your self-esteem and confidence. And this is something very important because when you self-doubt from yourself, you are living in a constant self-guessing. What if, what if, what if? And this is enlarging your adrenaline and cortisol production. We need to live with peace of mind. And in order to get it, to maximize our life, we need to stop the generation of adrenaline and cortisol. And there are three ways: trigger, reset, subconscious fears, identification and reset, and then managing your inner critic dialogue. Because if you're constantly beating yourself up, if you're constantly blaming yourself, if you're feeling ashamed of yourself and you're constantly criticizing and judging, you are generating adrenaline and cortisol. Look at this girl, you know, the extreme anxiety and stress that she was feeling pushed her to take action and ask for help, you know. So she understood how to forgive herself and heal. She got the tools to listen and empower her inner voice. It is true that her life circumstances were tough at that time and she could not change them, but she managed a lot and she changed a lot the way she was handling life, and that made her to feel calm and at peace with herself. And this is priceless because right now you are in your mind and your mind is the one ruling your life, the one that is preventing you from enjoying and being happy. Four things we do: we handle all your emotions to manage all the frustration you feel because you cannot cope with your anxiety, to manage the guilt that is making you feel because you think that is not only affecting you but as well your loved ones, you know? And it is true, it is affecting your loved ones. It is making extremely happy yourself and your loved ones as well. And this is something we cannot tolerate, you know? Because life is too short to struggle with something that you can manage easily with the specialized help. You also feel a lot of shame because you feel that there's something wrong with you. We have seen why, you know, and you're scared of not being able to cope with it, you know. And all this we need to learn to manage it. Otherwise, it's taking over us and preventing us from being happy, which is what we want in the end. We also feel sad because we miss the one that we used to be. We miss being normal, doing normal things, enjoying the summer now that we are very close to it, going on vacations, taking a plane, driving, going out, trying new places, meeting new people, eating new food, going outside, being in concerts. We're sad because we're missing all this. We used to enjoy it, but now we are not able to do it, but we want. This is why it's so important to learn to manage all these. You know, it's so important to manage all your emotions, not only the ones that come with anxiety, all of them. And this is what we do as well in the program. You can you can read it here. There is a client that she felt so overwhelmed when she studied that I remember that she was crying the whole session long. So, but she learned to control her emotions and to put them into her favor, you know? She got internal resources and now she knows how to use them to empower herself and face future challenge, She doesn't get blocked by emotions anymore. And this is what matters the most because anxiety is getting us into what is called emotional hijack, We are completely controlled by it. And this is something that we cannot tolerate because then it's anxiety taking over our life and not us enjoying our life, and deciding by ourselves. And the last part is we work on the confidence, on your self confidence and self trust, so you can stop your self guessing, self judging, and self criticizing. You have here the example of another client. She felt very disconnected from herself when we started working together. She was not focused and balanced. She was sad and grumpy all the time, and she was feeling. Wait, sorry. And she was feeling very, very apathetic. She had no energy, and she felt drained. She was not able to enjoy life. So we started the process, and she felt like she started to rescue herself. She recognized to embrace herself with the strengths and weaknesses, that we all have. No one is perfect. She understood how to practice self compassion and self care. And she identified her inner critic voice, and how annoying it was and the terrible impact it had in her life. She learned to shift her inner critic voice into her life. And now she's feeling calm and she can embrace it. She felt the process like really positive and enriching experience, and that helped her to reinforce her self-esteem and self-identity. And she feels that she has the tools now to face uncertainty and future life problems. She has grown tremendously emotionally and personally, And if she did it, you can do it too. Because this is a one-to-one bespoke program where we face all your needs and according to your triggers and the way you are and what you need, And we are together here to not only delete and reset your anxiety inputs, but as well to drive you into a new place where you can break free from anxiety to be happy again. This is not an anti anxiety program or breaking free from anxiety. No, this is just the first step. What I really want you to be is happy. I want this world to be full of happy women because I have been there and I know you can do it. And I know how to do it. And I know what you need to do it. And now I'm taking planes, I'm flying, I'm going out on vacations and enjoy life. And my clients are doing it too. Because this is not only about overcoming anxiety in 30 days. This is about getting your perfect life, the one that you want, the one that makes you happy, the one that is going to make your loved ones happy as well. It's not only about you and your anxiety. Trust me, anxiety is just the first part. The journey comes when you overcome it. And this is what overcoming your anxiety with Kaiser means, to live with peace of mind, enjoying all these small things that life can bring you, reconnecting with who you were since you had anxiety. Stop beating yourself up and empower your self-esteem and your confidence. So you love to be in your skin. You love yourself. You fall in love with yourself. This is a fantastic sensation. And when you control your emotions and you use them into your favor, when you're able to set up boundaries, when you're able to stop pleasing people, and when you're able to manage and understand all what you're going through, trust me, you feel so powerful. So, so powerful that nothing can, take it away from you. I mean, enjoy life again and be happy because you learn to go with the flow. This is what Tizer gives you. You can come back to drive, to fly, to travel, to go out, to meet people, to try new foods, to go out to new restaurants, being in concerts outside, not having fear of being judged, not having fear of what if, not catastrophizing, not overthinking, just living the best summer of your life, just being the dancing queen, like the ABBA song. And this is what I can do for you. This is what managing your emotions to empower yourself is gonna get you. And you're gonna have all the tools to face any life challenge. It's not only about overcoming anxiety. I told you this is the first part. And if you don't trust me, read these comments. Um, she was she was very frustrated with herself because she was not able to live her life. She's like one client from Ireland. Her main fear was having a full panic attack in a situation where she was driving or flying or in a crowd environment. This is as well very common. So she made the decision not to live in fear for longer because it was impacting her social life, meeting friends, and her work life, especially during the meetings. So she met me through Instagram. And after our discovery call, we started helping together. We started working together. Um, Now she's feeling more comfortable knowing that if she has a panic attack or an anxiety, she has methods to deal with it. She's not having them anymore, but she feels comfortable knowing it. Um, she has been on a plane before she could not make it. She has been abroad. Previously, she was backing up last minute going on holidays, even after paying in full for them. Imagine, just because of her anxiety. And now she's able to fly all around the globe. She's able to drive as well on her own because before she couldn't make it. She couldn't drive further than her work, which was only 10 minutes away from home. She can socialize, she's more confident. She doesn't allow anxiety to control her. She controls everything. And the only regret she has is that she wish she would have done this sooner. Because life is too short to struggle with something that you can, with the right help, control. So now I want you to tell me, how can I help you? Tell me. I'm at your disposal. You can always book a free discovery call with me, whether in the link from Calendly, whether WhatsApp me, if you are in the WhatsApp group, or you can always write me via Instagram at marta.raga and you can reach me. Tell me, how can I help you? What can I do for you? I'm here to help you. I'm here to not make you struggle. You tell me. Tell me, Dana. And how can I help you? I'm going to